Hello. I hope you're doing well. So, I have a new camera and a new microphone, and I have no idea what that's going to mean for the quality of this video today, but I hope it's improved. And I'm just fooling around as I do, becoming a YouTube sensation. So anyhow, hopefully you can also see a title today. What are you feeding yourself? So I got inspiration for the video from a post that I put on my Facebook group page a day or two ago. And it was asking exactly that. What is the diet that you're feeding yourself? And of course, the first thing we think of when we hear that is, what food are we eating? And that's always important. Are we eating a healthy or relatively healthy diet? We know that without good, healthy food, we don't allow our bodies to get the energy that it needs in order to fulfill the things that we would like to do. So obviously, food is an important part of our diet. And I don't know why it is that we sometimes struggle with that. I have had a lot of addiction in my lifetime. Food is not typically something on the list. And I'm very grateful for that, because I always feel that people who have food addiction have one of the biggest challenges, because you can't just give it up. You know, if you have alcohol or drugs or cigarettes as an addiction, it may be difficult, but you actually can succeed at giving those things up so that they're no longer part of your life. And that's a little easier, I think, than trying to figure out how to monitor food all the time. So I really feel for people who have challenges, especially with sugar. I think we all have challenges with sugar. If you ingest sugar, you're somewhat addicted to sugar, because that's just the nature of what sugar is. And unfortunately, over these many, many decades, 100 years or so since processed food was introduced into our diet, sugar became a staple that was put into almost everything, pretty much in order to guarantee that we would continue to desire it. And I'm always disappointed when I come to these realizations, because I think as a young kid, at least, I thought that the world was such a good place and that people would never do things to purposely harm another individual. But today, when we know how detrimental sugar is, and that it feeds cancer cells, for example, and I don't know if it creates them, but we know that it feeds them, and a lot of other things, diabetes being rampant throughout the world, but especially in North America due to high sugar intake, all the carbs and so on that have been introduced into our diets. And things like, I remember when my kids would eat a lot of ketchup, and I was never a big ketchup eater. But when I started to look at the ingredients in some of this food, and I did when my kids were younger, I never really paid attention for myself, which I really should have, but I started to pay attention more with the kids. And when I saw how much sugar was in ketchup, I started thinking, well, that's why there's such a need for so much ketchup on everything. Because my view of it was that it was the sugar in the ketchup that became addictive. So I started buying organic ketchup, which still has sugar in it, as organic cane sugar instead of white processed refined sugar. But I thought it was a small improvement, I guess, if the kids were going to ingest it, that at least maybe it wasn't quite as harmful. But anyhow, I eat fairly healthy. I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. However, I probably 80% of the time eat a vegetarian diet, because that's just what I choose to eat. However, I do like to go out and have a good steak or nice piece of roast beef or rack of lamb. I mean, I enjoy those things, and I've not found myself moving in that direction of being a vegetarian, although I highly respect those who are. And also the same goes for those who are vegan, and all the reasons why beyond health that people are choosing these lifestyles, I think, is very healthy. So as we start to pay more attention to the food we put into our bodies, it's likely that you start to think about the other things that we are digesting, ingesting in and around us that makes up our entire diet of what we feed our mind, our body, and our spirit, for that matter. So the next thing I'm going to challenge you on is, do you watch the news? And if you do watch the news, how much news do you watch? And I haven't watched the news for 14 years, and I have a journalism degree. But my take on the news, probably because of that education in terms of journalism, was that TV news in particular, for me, is not news. It is simply fear-mongering and repetitive messaging that can do nothing for me except instill fear, cause me to have extreme viewpoints on things, not do my research on my own regarding topics that are addressed in the news, relying on these little 1-minute sound bites that again are repeated throughout a day or a week or whatever it may be. To me, this is not a healthy diet for my mind or my attitudes, my behaviors, my overall energy, the way that I approach life. I can't even imagine how I would be if I had been watching the news during these past 18, 19 months during our pandemic. I think I would have completely lost my mind. And I feel for those who do have that daily habit, because I'm certain that it cannot be good for the mental and emotional health. So I want you to give that some thought. There are many ways to find news. I do not feel that I am out of the loop pretty much at all when it comes to news. I do get some news on my phone, but I get to pick and choose what I give my attention to. And I think that's important, and I think we lose that when we're just staring at the screen. And, I know those who leave the news on all day. And I never really understood when you go to the gym why they would have these screens, multiple screens, with the news on. And then, of course, years ago, the news started introducing the ticker tapes. So not only were we getting the reporters giving us news, but we get this constant ticker tape of additional news. Well, news, who got shot, who got raped, who got murdered, where the car accidents are, just this multitude of negative information coming at me nonstop. I'm so anti-TV news, as you can see. But at the gym, when I'm supposed to be clearing my mind and making my body feel good, and then I've got this negative box in front of me feeding me this information again, sometimes just silently. But with the ticker tapes, there's all kinds of messaging that can still come my way. And I'll do my best to ask that it either be changed, the channel, or it be turned off if I have an option to do that. I find it that counterproductive to the reasons why I'm at the gym. So what we feed our minds. So news is one thing. Do you read books? And if you don't read books or listen to books now, with audiobooks, we don't really have many excuses for saying, we don't read, because it becomes really simple to throw on a book in the headphones and walk to work, or, go for a stroll, or sit on a couch, or whatever we may do. We don't actually physically ever have to pick up a book anymore and put our eyes to words if we don't feel like it. So we can listen to books now, and they're relatively inexpensive, audiobooks and ebooks, and there's plenty of them. Every book that's published now, I think, is published in an ebook and oftentimes in audio format. So what are you reading? What are you picking up to expand your mind? Are you doing that? Or are you simply too busy with the busyness of your life to even absorb some interesting new information beyond the news, for example? So I would ask you to look at that as well. And I tend to read spiritual books, books on, expanding consciousness, law of attraction, meditation, how to be a better parent or partner or whatever it is, how to be more financially abundant, whatever that may look like. I am quite focused on the self-development, surprise, surprise. But what do you like to feed your mind? I also like nonfiction books, and I like fiction books too. So I'm not limited to that, but it's just something I like to feed myself to keep that energy level high. I belong to a meditation group. We meet twice a week, and we have some homework and things like that we work on in small groups. So we meet via Zoom. And I've met with people, I meet with people all around the world. I'm coaching people from all around the world, so I get all of that interaction, and it's very sustaining. The coaching itself, of course, is extremely satisfying in terms of supporting women in their journey of their own self-discovery. I find that to be the best job that I could ever have, and it took me a lot of years to get there on that one. So what are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your body? Are you exercising at any level? That includes going for walks. There's really very little excuse for not getting out and taking a walk. So the idea that we can't exercise, we all became adaptable during the pandemic in terms of not being able to go to the gym. I guess some people maybe stopped going completely, but others altered their routines. Like I started running, which I initially really disliked, but then came to love. Whatever it is that, a lot of people created their gyms outside in playgrounds and parks. It was really, to me, very inspiring to watch. And in some days, or a lot of days, far more enjoyable. Now that I can go back to the gym, I'm like, Jesus, gym is boring. It's a whole lot nicer to be outside and taking in the views and so on. And then finally, I want to ask you who you're spending time with. Who are the people that you are spending your time with? They say that the 5 people that we spend the most amount of time with are those that influence our thinking and behaviors the most, and we are also influencing those 5 people ourselves. It works both ways. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Do they speak positively? Are they often complaining? Are they often the victim of their lives? Are they inspiring? Are you inspiring? What are you saying? Because that's another diet that you're feeding yourself when you're pulling out your thoughts and your feelings out of your body and projecting them out to other people and to the world. So what does that look in terms of a healthy diet? And, there are many, many, many ways in which we feed our mind, body, and spirit. And also, what are you doing for your spiritual self? Do you pray? Do you meditate? How do you reduce anxiety? How do you take care of yourself? Self-care is a huge part of our diet and how well we operate in a holistic way, mind, body, and spirit. So I'd like for you to think about those things and see where you might be able to make a few adjustments in order to feed yourself an improved diet all around, and see how you might improve your mood and your approach to life by just changing up a few little things in all those many areas that we have a choice to dictate and to drive our own outcomes and our own choices in terms of a healthy diet, body, mind, and spirit. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I always welcome your comments. Please subscribe to the channel. You can tap the little heart if you'd like to subscribe. Please share videos if you're so inspired to do so. And I will see you again.